Hello there. Welcome to Sweet Shot of Time. I'm your host, Steve Barnes. Today, we're wrapping up our recap coverage of Time Bandits. We're on episode 10 entitled The Fortress of Darkness. But fear not, because I have a big announcement for all of our listeners. Bideleg is returning to Sweet Child of Time. That's right. Runa Temte has booked a podcast with us to discuss his portrayal of Bideleg and Time Bandits. Of course, we're going to ask him about the cancellation of Time Bandits. We're going to discuss a new reality show that Runa is going to be one of the 3 judges on.
Whoa.
And your questions, y'all. This is an action item for our listeners. If you write us at sweetshotoftime.com or maybe on Instagram at sweetshotoftimepod, or if you want to do the Gmail thing, we're at sweetshotoftimepod@gmail.com. Drop us a line to ask Runa a question. We'll relay a message to him if you'd like. We'll make him say your name, anything you want. Write us up and get your voice in for Runa. Drop us a line. Speaking of lines, I got to introduce my other guy here. He's on the line. He's the Marshland Monster. He's going to be talking to Runa Temte soon, too. It's the Marshland Monster, James McCullum. Ahoy there, James.
Ahoy, we need to talk. Will I be talking to him? That's what we need to figure out.
Oh, well, I asked you if you'd like to join me for that, and you expressed a wee bit of interest in doing so.
Yes, I mainly say, depending on the day of the week that we're recording, then it might be up in the air.
That's right. He is a fellow that lives in Norway, and when I got in touch with him last time, we had to record at a very weird time because of our time zones are very different. So, yeah, that's a good question. I hope I'm going to try my best to make it a time that you can join us, James.
All righty.
I want you to be in Bideleg's presence as well.
I'll ask him, hey, what was in the hatch?
I have all kinds of questions. I've already written a bunch, but the hatch, which hatch are you talking about?
The one from Lost. Maybe he's seen it. I never saw it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you could ask your buddy Steve Barnes here, but if you want to ask Bideleg, then I can't blame you.
You want to know what? I'll ask you right now, and then I'll ask him to verify. So, Steve, you could be lying. I don't know. What was in the hatch?
A dude. It was a dude that was pressing numbers into a computer. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A dude was in there.
All right. And what's another? Who shot Burns?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. There were some vicious rumors that there was Las Vegas odds being placed on this bet when that episode was aired. People were saying, oh, there's Las Vegas bets happening and people are putting big money on who shot Mr. Burns. All that stuff was false. That was all photoshopped, manipulated stuff. It was just hype for the show. None of that stuff happened. Nobody was betting on it.
It technically wasn't photoshopped. Photoshop wasn't it was just they made new material.
Yeah, that's right. They just made up all that stuff. You'll see screenshots of odds of who shot Mr. Burns, and that's fake stuff. But yeah, it was a certain individual that shot Mr. Burns that probably shouldn't have been handling a firearm, but they were, sometimes underage individuals.
Santa's little helper?
I don't know if his little paws could activate a pistol. So I think it had to be a human hand or a Simpson hand that did so.
Oh, so it wasn't Snake because he also shouldn't have a firearm because he's a felon.
That's right. Yeah. And he's a very polite fellow that generally will follow the law, the law of the land,
Was it Cletus? I feel like he shouldn't have a firearm either.
I don't know why I'm so hesitant. I was so quick to spoil the loss who was in the hatch. And for some reason, I just can't.
I think it's because you don't know. You skipped those 2 episodes. You're like, I don't have time for the season finale. And then
I gotta
you were
prove it. It was Maggie.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll follow up with Bideleg and see if he knows.
Okay, that's right.
I'll ask him, if you want to travel to a time period, which one would you do?
Are you asking me or are you asking Bideleg?
Oh, what do you think Bideleg will say?
Well, judging from this episode, he'd probably look around his living room and be like, I'd like to travel right here. This looks pretty nice where I'm at.
Okay, all right. Well, we will confirm those 3 questions. Who's in the hatch? Who shot Burns? And where do you want to go?
That's right. Yeah, I got a couple of things here I wanted to discuss before we get into our episode, James. First off, the first thing I'll do is I'll start with the non-Time Bandits related, and then I'll do the more Time Bandits related towards the end.
Okay.
So first off, it's well known I have a son who is about your age. Caleb is his name. And there's one thing that Caleb and I have in common, besides our last name, of course, is we both make friends online. He's the same type too. When he was in high school, he made friends with an individual named James who lives in Chicago. And they have been friends since then. They have met a few times. Caleb is going to Chicago to be the best man in this James's wedding.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we were talking about this. Caleb was like, he was asking after you. He was like, so how's your friend James doing? I'm like, oh, et cetera, doing great. He was like, ask him if he knows James Pocourt, because he probably knows him because they both live in Chicago. I was like, yeah, I'm sure the odds are they probably know each other. So, James,
Holy
do you know
Christmas.
James Pocourt?
Of course I know him. Not because we live in Chicago, but because all Jameses know each other.
I figured as such. It's like a Facebook group. And it's like only Jameses can be in this group.
No Jamies. I don't care if it's on your birth certificate as James. If you go by Jamie, get out of here. I grew up. I turned 10 years old and said, I'm no longer Jamie. I'm James.
No, Jamie. What are the other surnames that people use for James? There's Jamie, of course. You just mentioned it.
Jameson.
Do any dorks call themselves Jams?
Well, okay, not dorks. A lot of my friends call me that, including Nicole.
Oh, total dorks then. Okay, all right.
Oh my goodness. Actually, Jamesons are allowed in the James Facebook group.
Yeah, that's a pretty proper, like, it's almost like a step up from James,
yes.
As a matter of fact. It's like got a lot more fancy syllables in there.
Yep.
But a real common name, this is my next subject, is Joe Pera. I wanted to say something about Joe Pera because I've been like following an example of his for a few months now. And I wanted to talk about this. I don't know why. A big influence he had on me was he had an episode of his TV show, Joe Pera Talks to You. And he was in his classroom. He's a teacher. And he was making his afternoon coffee. And he liked to make his coffee super, super weak. Like barely you can like hold it up to the light and you can see through it. It looks like really weak iced tea, basically. And I have followed that example for a few months now. When I make my coffee, I don't do it quite as light as he does. But, when you make like a 12 cups of coffee, it's expected to put 6 tablespoons of raw coffee in there to make it. I half that. I do like 3 tablespoons, sometimes even 2, sometimes even 1, James, 1 tablespoon for 12 cups. And it's still great. It still gets you caffeinated. And I don't know what I was thinking with this like heavy duty, like I would put like 12 tablespoons of coffee for 12 cups of coffee and it would just be like thick oil. And
guys,
I was just doing myself a huge disservice.
I'm blown away because when I make coffee, I'm putting like 12 tablespoons, but the tablespoons are overflowing if I were to be making 12 because I don't want to see through it at all. I want a thick muck going in. And then that's probably why my bones start vibrating.
That's exactly why your bones are vibrating, James. Like you're doing yourself a disservice. Like I was the same way too for a long time. And I've noticed a difference in myself. Like that's why they call you Jampy is because of all that tablespoons of coffee. And you know what else? The Grift Horse way, the less coffee you use per cup, the longer that package of coffee will last you.
Yeah, especially now that my food stamps, my EBT ran out. So also I can't, it hurts my stomach, so I can't even do coffee anymore whatsoever.
Oh.
And on top of that, I love creamer in it. And that's so expensive that it just eliminates all of it.
You're exactly right. That raises a great point. Yeah, if you're going to use creamer and sugar in your coffee, sure, it's best to have that full flavored, full body coffee.
Oh, baby.
But if you're drinking it black like I do, like adding cream and sugar to it is not helpful. It's like drinking sugar water, sugar milk water, and it just doesn't work.
I get sugar-free.
What's this?
I get sugar-free.
Oh, well, I'm just using myself as an example because I've been known in the past to dump sugar and creamer into my coffees. Not anymore. But yeah, for drinking black coffee, use a little less coffee, y'all. It's going to be helpful.
It sounds like a lot of less coffee, not a little.
It is. Well, I mean, the morning time coffee is usually pretty strong. I'm talking about your afternoon coffees is what I'm talking about here.
I would also, I've said this many times before, Joe Pera, not Tim Allen, should be the voice of pure Michigan, because watching Joe Pera talks to you is the only time I've been like, I guess Michigan ain't all that bad. I could go live there.
That's right.
But then I think about all the bad times I've had in Michigan. I'm like, oh no, that place is a trash heap. No, thank you.
Well, see, that proves he's an excellent spokesman, because he makes you forget all the badness, and you're just like, yeah, this sounds great. I'm talking about the UP.
And the UP is different than the LP.
Exactly. And the LP is different from the EP.
Yes, that's an extended play as opposed to a lower peninsula.
All right, my last topic that's non-Time Bandit related. I had to get this off my chest because this is something that's been bugging me for months now. I don't take Hopper for walks every day. It's, maybe like 2 or 3 times a week we'll go for a walk around the neighborhood. And I don't know, I've been around your neighborhood. We took a walk around your neighborhood. So you are familiar with some of your neighbors, and maybe some of your more eccentric neighbors that might have more interesting things outside of their homes, or things that make them stand out. No?
Not really, because the only time we meet neighbors is on a trick-or-treating night, because we all sit down, and the parents of in the last 2 years we haven't, because it's been so cold. So
yeah,
the only other neighbor we know is the one above us and the one across from us within our apartments, and that's it.
Well, sure. Same here. Like I'm more close with my neighbors that are right next to me and across the street than I am with the ones that are further away. But even so, when me and Hopper are doing our walk around the block, we're passing, 50, 60 houses. Mm-hmm. There's just one particular house that's just fascinating to me. And the reason why is because a detective lives there, like a police detective. And I know he's a detective because I've seen him a couple times. He drives a Crown Vic. He always wears like a button-up shirt with a tie, and he has his gun holster on the side. And he's clean-cut looking. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Clean-cut looking, has a flagpole in his front yard. All the houses are, suburban. I live in a pretty suburban area here. The thing that makes him stand out is he's got an abandoned van in his driveway, and the back hatch of the van is always open, and there's dogs. There's 3 dogs that live in that van. Sometimes those dogs will roam the neighborhood. Sometimes those dogs will, bark at us as we walk by. They never come after us though. It's like if something happens, they all run back to that van. So it's like this weird clean-cut looking Richmond detective dude. It's fascinating to me that he has this van and these dogs, and he leaves them there all day, all night. They live in the van. They have free roam of the neighborhood, but they don't abuse that power. And it makes me think I wonder if there's ever detective cases where like a Scooby-Doo situation where he runs home. He's like, I got the dogs. Maybe the dogs are part of his deal.
No, this is pigs protecting pigs, okay? Because if anyone else on that street had the same exact setup, the police would be called, animal control would be called, and they'd be like, hey, you got to clean up this. A car just sitting there, is already hey, you need to have this removed.
Well, it's in his driveway. The van is in his driveway.
Okay, it's in his driveway. Okay. Yeah. But the fact that it's open and these dogs just go in and out, I thought it was on this side of his front lawn. That
oh, no.
Because my parents have been called for stuff like that, and the
we all
people
have.
who lived next door did, because they fixed up cars. So there is no other reason that this is being, in quotes, allowed than he knows people on the force, and he's like, nah, man, it's just where my dogs, it's the dog house. And he's like, no, how about you buy your own, make a dog house?
I guess he has an agreement with his neighbors, or he knows them. I've never talked to the guy. I've only waved at him a couple times. But for example, there's our next door neighbor. There's an alleyway that's between my house and my neighbor's house. And there's this woman that always walks her dogs right through our yard. And it kind of pisses us off. I'm going to be honest with you, but it's not we don't live in an HOA. So it's not we're calling the police or hey, this woman keeps cutting through our yard. It's kind of you just kind of roll your eyes oh, there she is again.
Okay, in an HOA, they call the HOA if you live in there. You can still call the police if you need to.
If I needed to, I would. But like I said, those dogs are like, that's their home base. And I've seen them around the neighborhood, but then like if they just run back to the van. It's not like they're dogs that are loose and like menacing the neighborhood. I hope I didn't make that impression, because they're pretty chill, but it's just still a very weird thing that I've just noticed like within the past like maybe year or two.
Like free roam dogs, you shouldn't have that.
Right.
Like put them on a leash. Maybe also free roam cats you shouldn't have either.
Correct. See,
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But you want to know what? I don't like that, even though I'm pretty sure Melissa Villasenor, she'd kill those dogs if they tried messing with her.
Oh yeah, she can hold her own among any of the neighborhood pets. Absolutely. She's small. She's a dwarf cat. I don't know if you realize this or not, but she's...
Oh my God, that means she's even cuter.
She is, which makes it even scary when she brings these giant birds in the house. It's like, how did you manage this? Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time, and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com.
All right, we need to get onto Time Bandits.
Okay, Time Bandits. First off, this episode 10 of Fortress of Darkness, we basically focus on our main cast here. And our co-stars this episode pretty much are the same co-stars we've seen throughout the show. Jermaine Clement plays Evil. Taika Waititi plays the Supreme Being. You got James Dresden, another James. He's playing the dad. And Felicity Ward, that's who I wanted to bring us to. She is Kevin's mom, Kevin and Saffron's mom. And because she's on this new show, The Australian Office, she's been doing like a lot of press and she's been doing a lot more stuff on social media. So she's been putting a lot of clips of her stand-up comedy on her Instagram. And I've noticed like, a lot of times comedians will have like a certain, I don't know, just like a home base that they always follow like this. I'm trying to think of a good example. Pete Holmes is like your typical like Christian type, good boy turned non-Christian comedian, right? That's kind of like his base. Her base is IBS. That's what all of her stand-up is around, is like her battle with IBS, which she's very frank about. And she makes it comedic.
Does she have IBS-D or IBS-C?
I haven't delved too far, and I don't know the difference.
One's IBS-C is constipation and one's D, diarrhea.
Diarrhea is what she's got then, because the way based on her comedy, she's a D. But yeah, I've been really enjoying her clips, and I just think it's really funny that she uses like her, her physical ailments as her comedy center. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's all I wanted to bring up about Felicity Ward. Our last topic, throwing corpses over walls. Remember last episode when they were throwing those diseased corpses over the walls? Mm-hmm. Kevin was telling us this is the first example of biological warfare. And one of the podcasts that I listen to that I've been a guest on, and he's been a guest on our podcast, Anthony LaDon from the House of the Dragon podcast and from the Game of Thrones podcast. On his last podcast, The House of the Dragon, they were talking about the Battle of the Blackwater with Joffrey Baratheon, and they were describing how Joffrey Baratheon, a fictional character in a fictional setting, was throwing diseased corpses over the walls, using corpses as like a weapon. And they were talking about this on Anthony's podcast. And of course, he and his co-hosts are all, college professors. They all have PhDs.
Oh, la-dee-da.
But they don't know anything about dead corpses. None of them were aware that was a real thing. They were like, that's a disgusting thing. And like, how the hell did George R. Martin think about that? And, they were like, is that based on history? I don't think so. I don't think there's ever any cases of that. Sure enough, just last week, we watched Kevin and we learned about the Battle of Kaffa.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I graduated from community college and I knew that.
I attended classes at community college, did not graduate, but
Oh, hell yeah, dude. You don't need to when you're working with water. Hoo-hoo, that's H2O. That's all you need to know.
that's right. And the poops, don't forget the poops, the wastewater. That's
All right, IBSD, baby. You wish everyone had IBSC.
It's, I'm gonna say I think I would almost rather have the IBSD than the IBSC. I'm gonna be honest, because
Well, yeah, you personally,
Yeah.
but I guess job security people got the D. But if everyone had the C, like let's just say 1 week out of the year, everyone had the C, you'd be like, oh shoot, man, my job's real easy right now.
oh my God, there's like no sludge to haul. Like the wastewater plant is spotless. That's a good idea. How can you get IBSC out into the general population?
Well, I guess it would just be C, not IBSC, because IBS is like a thing you deal with, not just.
Okay.
That's like someone saying like I'm sad opposed to I have clinical depression.
Sure. Okay, I get it. Well, I know X-Lax is like a way you can get that D going. What's something that is it cheese, I guess? Cheese?
People say cheese. I once famously I talked about talking about Beyblade for Blades Giving. My parents used to leave for Thanksgiving. Not my parents, two of my parental units would leave for Thanksgiving to one of their families in a different state. So I would be by myself all Thanksgiving break, and they would just like have they'd say, yeah, there's like 10 frozen pizzas in the freezer. That's your meals. So I would just be housing pizza and would pour on Parmesan cheese. One year, I think it had to have been the first year, after that weekend, I was constipated for the first time, and I think the only time ever in my life, and it sucked. It was terrible. So just give everyone DiGiorno's with like 2 things of Parmesan cheese, and eventually they'll be good.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is like we'll announce like, hey, we're having a free pizza party for all our valued customers, and that sets the trap. I like this idea. I hope nobody from Aqua is listening. I think only the real ones are listening, James. It's December, and I know like podcast numbers go down sometimes. So we just got the real ones with us right now. They're loving this talk.
Like my podcast listening I'm always listening the same amount.
I've noticed a drop because for a while it was like when I'd wake up in the morning on Thursday mornings when I drop a podcast, which I drop them at midnight, and then I wake up at like 6 or 7. And by the time I wake up, there's usually like 38. It was almost always 38. And then like for the past couple of weeks, past couple of episodes, that number is lower than 38, significantly lower.
Wait, no. You should know this might be Spotify podcast. Go to analytics, then scroll all the way down. The first thing is just Spotify numbers.
Well, no. This is the number when I wake up, like the like 7 hours after my podcast drops. So the people that have it downloaded immediately.
But what I will say is you might want to either look at this specific episode, like click into that, or scroll down. So you're clicking into the episode itself.
Okay, yeah.
Because the first thing you see on analytics or on the home page, it is only showing Spotify numbers, not all podcast apps numbers.
Right. Okay, all right. Well, we got more real ones than we thought, and they're loving this. I know y'all real ones are like, y'all going to talk about Time Bandits ever.
I don't want this to go too long because Nicole and I do want to watch a movie tonight.
And me and Heather want to have dinner as well. So,
my God. Yeah, it's 6:15 for you.
But we're in podcast land. The listeners, who knows what time it is where they're at, what day it is. It might be in March listening to this. They don't know that we're ready for dinner and hanging out with Nicole. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to this just for their sake, just to be polite. We start out this episode. We got our usual intro, and for this intro, we got 3 items. We got a crest, which I wasn't quite sure what that crest signified. I'm going to be honest. There was the yellow lunchbox, which of course plays a huge role here, and the white leather jacket, which was donned by Taika Waititi's Supreme Being. James, did you recognize that crest, that first item?
The crest. Well, so I did. The theme song did play, but I was starting to take notes while it was playing. So I only saw the end, and I don't remember what was being shown.
One of you real ones, please let me know what that crest was, because I don't know.
The crest. Was it toothpaste?
It might have been. I mean, there's some good sets of teeth in this show. I got to say, there's some very nice teeth happening in this show.
Was it the crest on Kevin's chest?
No, because it wasn't the same color, because his crest is always that red and white crest, and this was like yellow and blue, if I remember correctly.
Is it the crest that's on the lunchbox?
It couldn't be. They wouldn't do those two items so close together. But anyway, we start this episode, we're getting to know Hen. We're talking to Hen first off. Hen is a fellow played by Josh Thompson. We're talking about the plan inside, what they're going to do once they get to the Fortress of Darkness. Kevin has a very simple plan. He's just simply going to ask him. And he seems pretty confident in this plan. It's just very simple, straightforward, and no intricacies involved. And even Biddleleg notices the flaws in his plan. Saffron says that she has a proper plan, is what she says.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't tell us. She doesn't follow up with this, but we see it at the end of the episode. So keep your ear out for that one.
Which I think this is both of their plans.
I don't know. I think this is Saffron because Kevin just seems pretty set to like just simply ask. Well, maybe it is. Who knows? They're brother and sister.
They know if the Time Bandits are in on the actual plan that they will 100% give it away. So they have to, Kevin has to say, oh, this is the plan. And then Saffron's like, no, I have a real plan. So they're just going to focus on Kevin while all of this BS is happening, which is then when Penelope is saying, like, talking to them and all that, that's when they're like, oh yeah, we know what the plan actually was. We know they're going to have an argument with the Supreme Being and pure evil that we can quickly switch these lunchboxes.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess, I was going to say like, Kevin is too, frank and too, to come up with a conniving plan like that. But we've seen Kevin, he has some secrets. He has some things up his sleeve. So I think he's capable of this. That's true. So yeah, this dude Hen is a huge giant that walks around the ocean. It's pretty creepy when you think about it. I was thinking about like his underwater life, like where his feet are and what kind of things he's stepping on. But he seems pretty content with his lot in life. He has a house on top of his head. 2 nice people live in that house.
I do think vines growing like to your head around it as like a chin strap is nightmarish.
I can see that. I figured it was detachable. I didn't think it was like grown into him. I thought it was just something he could take on and off if he wanted to.
So it's growing to be tight on him. Like he'd have to rip the vines, I think, to remove it.
It needs to be secure. So yeah, I'm with that. And yeah, Gavin and Susan, they want things right. They want a good life for themselves. So I think they want to keep things proper. Speaking of Gavin and Susan, Penelope here has to say an awkward goodbye to Gavin. She makes it clear that she doesn't have any love for Susan at this point. She clearly says, I don't care what you think, Susan. But Gavin doesn't really reciprocate any love for Penelope. I think that she was just, she got friend zoned, I think, by Gavin.
Or just not even we grew apart.
Yeah, I don't know. I get the sense that they all kind of came from the same area. The Supreme Being created them all, like in the same type of realm.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that Penelope got feelings and Gavin she called him her fiance, but I think that was all in her head. I really truly think that Gavin was just not attracted to her. Just a friend, not even like a good friend, just like an acquaintance.
No, I think they were an item, but I just realized this spoilers, this ends on a cliffhanger. But on top of that, the detectives we saw that like were working for the Supreme Being and then are now like turncoats trying to work against him, that is unresolved 100%. We do not see them since like 2 or 3 episodes back.
That's exactly right. We're going to get to that. That is a spoiler, James, because we're going to talk all about that when we get to it.
Oh, my God. I'm upset.
Well, because you want to talk about it right now?
It just ends like, oh, a cliffhanger. Stop ending seasons like this, guys. Unless you know 100%. They're like, if it's 10 episodes and then episode 6, they're like, hey, we've signed the contracts. We're back. Okay, then you want to know what? Let's rewrite the ending of the last episode to put in a cliffhanger because we know that there will be a next episode or a next season. Stop doing this. This is what, and also, I thought about this recently. Think about if you're reading a fantastic book and you're like, yes, it's like 100 pages. You're like, awesome, cool. You get to page 90 and the last 10 pages just aren't there. And it's like, okay. Oh, well, it wasn't renewed for the last 10 pages. That's stupid, guys. Quit doing this. And now it feels like lost media that just never was because these people didn't have foresight to be like, oh, you want to know what? We might not be renewed. A lot of these streaming shows are not, but it's streaming in NBC, taking shots at them. That it's like, oh yeah, you're just not going to get a second season.
I'm nodding along with everything you're saying, James. Listeners, I'm nodding along with James because I couldn't agree more. And I think that you and your cars and your treadmills are nodding as well. I think a great case in point here is 1899. It ended on a huge cliffhanger that came out of nowhere that the precipice was there's going to be a season 2 to resolve this and then a season 3 to wrap it up. And that never happened. It was bad planning. Whereas that exact same writing team did Dark. Now, Dark is a different example. They did do 3 seasons, but when they did the first season, they ended the first season in such a way that it could have existed on its own in one season with a wrapped up story, and it could have stopped right there.
Yeah.
But they continued. And I think that's the way it should be done. And I can't agree more that that's what they did with Time Bandits here too. The expectation is the story continues. There's no resolution at the end of this episode. So we're going to talk to Bidleg about that. We're going to get very mad at Runa Tempting. We're going to yell at him and make him give us answers.
We're going to say, this is all your fault.
Because we know that he planned this.
You have the strength of 8 men. You could have gone to the suits and threatened them.
All right. Threatening Hen. Okay, we're going to get back on track. Hen drops them off at the base of the Fortress of Evil. They say a nice goodbye to Hen. Hen seems like a pretty, amicable fellow, but he does not want to go any further than where he is. It's clear. And that's also what the Time Bandits agreed. I didn't say that. They agreed to go to the gate of the Fortress of Darkness of no further.
I thought the joke with Hen when he said, oh, I'll take you as far as I feel comfortable going. I thought he was going to turn around, take one step and say, all right, you guys can get out in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, they're there though. He drops them off pretty close, very close. He got more comfortable than we thought. That fortress is like full of lava and it's completely sealed up. So there's no way to get inside. Like the Tower of Genji that we'll see maybe later in Wheel of Time, perhaps. Another sealed tower with no entrance. But suddenly, John, that's this guy's name that shows up here. John comes and just for no reason opens up the door to the Fortress of Darkness and announces to the air very loudly and on purpose that he has revealed the entrance. So now it's up to the Time Bandits. It's back in their court. Are they going to enter? Well, the gang says goodbye to Kevin and Saffron. And here is where I'm a little tripped up, James.
Yeah.
Because when, the bandits are like, we're not going to go. Sorry, Kevin, which I think is kind of weird, but it is what it is. Okay. That's not what bothers me.
But that's what they promised.
Right. So I'm not bothered. I am kind of bothered. I'm like, y'all could do a little more here, but you promised, it's fine. But then for a bizarre reason that maybe you can help me understand, Widget gives Kevin the map so that Kevin and Saffron go into the Fortress of Darkness with the map. Now the Time Bandits are standing there with no map, no knowledge of where any portals are, no Hen. Was there a logic in that? Were they thinking ahead, or did they just kind of like not plan ahead at that point?
No, they never plan ahead.
Okay. Par for the course then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or because they knew like, oh, we're going to give this map, but we're not going to let him go in by himself. Like that,
well,
we keep saying that, but we're not really going to.
It seems like that was their plan. I'll trudge ahead here. Kevin steps inside the fortress. He falls through a trapdoor immediately. And this is when he awakens back in his room, back in his house. And when he awakens, we're like looking around his room and looking at all the figurines. And we're running through each episode of Time Bandits in order as he's looking at each object, which is I thought was kind of neat. Then his parents are in there. His parents are being very nice. And Kevin quickly realizes this is a trick. And of course it is. He's in the fortress with Saffron. It was just a little fake out for Kevin and for us, the viewers, to maybe give us a false sense of security that maybe Kevin was safe.
I didn't. I never fell for it.
I didn't either, but maybe some of our younger listeners did. No shame in that. No shame. But I hope you noticed, everyone, how pretty badass Evil's clothing is this episode.
Mm-hmm.
He always has a great outfit, but this outfit, I thought, with the buildings and it was like so imposing, I think it was pretty tops.
It just looked like his fortress, like he was wearing his own domicile.
I believe he might have stole the show this episode, Jermaine Clement. I mean, he was the reason I started watching this show. And I think this last episode, I think he won my heart. He really did. Evil has overtaken me.
What are you talking about? You started watching this show because it's Time Bandits.
Yes, but when I heard that Jermaine Clement was the head writer and was directing it and was in it, that was what sealed the deal.
All right.
Because, when a new show's coming out that you're into, it's like, oh, cool, a new show. But then like when you see like it's like an actor that you love, that you identify with, I mean, you're in 110% at that point.
What's a known, like a showrunner, producer, executive producer that's known for like stamping their mark on something that you're like, I love Time Bandits, I will not be watching this?
Wait, I don't understand the question. Are you asking me like if there's a showrunner that I don't like that I will never watch another show of?
That it's like, or even you might like their style, but Time Bandits plus, I'm thinking like Ryan Murphy. If Ryan Murphy were to do his Ryan Murphy style to that, like he's American Horror Story, all of that stuff.
Okay, I
if
wasn't
it's
familiar.
Like, oh no, why'd he do this?
I don't know. That's a tough question to ask. The first person that pops in my mind is that Nickelodeon guy.
Okay. Well, he's no longer working. So I guess like you would protest and boycott in protest, I should say. Of like, wait, you're giving him this. I guess there's like 2 kids in this show. So like, it's not that. And there is a guy who's as strong as 8 men. So if he starts becoming an asshole, there is someone on set who could just like stomp him down real quick.
Okay, I think I'm getting your gist now. What showrunner would be doing Time Bandits that I would not be excited about?
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is an interesting question because I got this locked in and I have like an answer that I'm afraid to say because it's somebody that I used to be a big fan of and then I've drifted away from their work and I kind of don't like their work anymore. Okay. Mr. Kevin Smith.
Whoa.
If I found out Kevin Smith was doing Time Bandits, I'd be kind of like hesitant. I think the direction he would take it might be a little, I don't know, just the sensibilities that I'm not comfortable with anymore.
See, and that's where I'll give you a little pushback because you haven't seen The Goldbergs, and he directed a lot of episodes of that, and he like did a great job on that show. So I think like if also Clerks the animated series, that's fantastic. When he is put to the task of, hey, you need to do a family-friendly thing, he rises to the occasion. So I'll push back. Kevin Smith would do a pretty good like heartfelt thing.
I forgot how much I love Clerks the animated series. I got my signed copy from Kevin Smith on my bookshelf over there. So, but I mean, I'm thinking of a different type of Kevin Smith. I'd forgotten all about that. But see, okay. Here's my pushback to you.
Okay.
Clerks the animated series, I thought was wonderful. Dogma, up to Dogma, I thought was wonderful. Since Dogma, that's when his style has gotten away from me. Listening to some of his podcasts that he has on his network, that pushed me away even further. So, just haven't really liked anything from him since probably 2002, 2003.
Oh, wow. I enjoy everything he does. I haven't seen Tusk because I don't think I'll enjoy it because it's just like, I don't want this. This looks sad.
My buddy, who's a huge Kevin Smith fan, hates Tusk. So
yeah.
So I think it's a good move.
Yeah. I will say he did the comic series Quick Stops that like fills in stories of previous things. Like the whole thing with the like pussy trolls of like how like let us figure out this like camp girlfriend that Elias had. Like it fills in those stories of just like things that are mentioned but never fully realized. He was doing like an issue for each story. This newest one, Quick Stops 2, is the greatest thing he has ever written. It is so good. It subverts your expectations of what Kevin Smith does. And I think like if you read a comic book and you love Kevin Smith, it is that comic. It is so good. I read it in almost one sitting, but I had things to do, so I did not.
Okay. All right. Kevin Smith
Quick
talk.
Stops 2.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to some Kevin Haddock talk.
Oh.
Yeah, the Haddock family. In Fortress of Evil, like I said, he snaps out of that vision that he had. We see Evil with all his cool clothes. Kevin's parents are there, tied up in a bunch of spikes. Kevin's parents like Evil. They're okay with him. Dad set up the Wi-Fi for Evil. Mom decorated with photos and memories in the corner over there.
I really loved when Kevin is saying, I'm not going to like fall for your stuff. Like, I'm not going to give you the map. And then his parents say, come on, don't embarrass us. Oh, no, they ask like, how do we know these are our real parents? And they say, come on, don't embarrass us. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's them.
That's them. Evil at this point tries to just ask nicely for the map. He's just taking a normal stab at this, just asking please. Things begin to get a little unpleasant, however, when the bandits arrive. They didn't arrive because they rescued Kevin or nothing like that. They were simply captured as well. So they did not run to Kevin's rescue. They were also just captured, and they're there also. So we find out the reason Evil is just asking for the map and not demanding it. Somebody clues us into the fact that Evil wants the map, but he can't actually take it. It has to be given to him. So he claims to be a reasonable person, and he shows them their lives that they could lead if they give him the map. So yeah, I wanted to go into a little bit of this real quick, what he offers each of them. First, we got Alto. I like how he calls him Alto. He performs acting to his fullest extent and is being applauded and rewarded for his deeds, and he loves it. Widget has a fantasy about being like a military general or something, being very smart and admired and opening jars and in like, top secret military bases, I suppose.
Yeah.
Biddleegg, my favorite, just enjoying life as it is. This is my favorite part of this episode is like Biddleegg's fantasy is just simply being there with his friends. He loves them. He's happy. He wants them to be together. So he's totally happy right now because they're all in the same place. Here's where it gets tricky. He shows Penelope what her life could be like, living with Gavin, having some kids. But just like James McCullum over here, Penelope can see through the logic of Evil's plan here. She realizes that would be great for her, but not so great for Gavin. So she's not going for this plan, which I thought was a nice little turn of events here. I'm sure other shows have done this type of role reversal, right?
Yeah, I was thinking specifically of a Night Terrors. It was a short mini series that DC did, or an event maybe is what they would probably call it, where everyone was like lulled into sleep throughout the entire Earth. And they would have dreams, and then eventually they would become nightmares. And I believe it was Harley Quinn's. Oh, no, not Harley's. Poison Ivy's, Pamela's. Hers is very much like that, where everything seems like it's so perfect, but then she like starts seeing that like the people are kind of robotic and like they seem like they don't want to be doing this, but they are so into doing this. And it like ends up being like real gross and like body horror stuff. But yeah, that's what it really reminded me of if we were to have seen this fully play out.
Yeah. And I don't remember seeing this in any other specific show, but I know that I have seen like a plot line that kind of follows that same thread where somebody has offered something that looks great to them, but then they realize, oh, it's not going to be so great for the people around me. You can't please everybody in this way. So yeah, I just recognize that, but I really like that type of writing. And there's some other neat turn of events that happen too from here. Evil clues Kevin into Supreme Being's big plan to reset the world and to erase all history. So he shows Kevin the flaw in that plan, which is erasing history, which Kevin loves so much. So Evil is trying to hone in on that aspect of it.
And he tells Kevin, like, oh, yeah, and I can, like, give you, like, cool shit, you know. Your parents will be fine. Your sister will be fine. I can, like, not make your school better, but, like, I believe he says, like,
less bullies.
Yeah. Was it just less bullies, or I can, like, bring you to a school that has less bullies? And he says, because I imagine you're regularly bullied with your personality.
Yeah, and Saffron laughs when he says that. I love it. Yeah, the Supreme Being has already started erasing parts of history, which explains the void they went through back in episode 6, because that was, like, new to them. They were scared of that. That was a Supreme Being's doing. We find out this episode.
Hey, Supreme Being, I got something I'd like you to erase. That time I pooped my pants in the 4th grade. Okay.
Yeah, please. Back to the IBSD.
I did. My family members do too, so I'm pretty sure I do. But because what I eat, it's fine. But I also have Crohn's, whatever. It's a whole my body, my GI tract just hates me.
Well, let's see. Evil, if he was going to be torturing you, I guess that's the first thing he would, like, hone in on. Probably is he'd probably make you crap your pants. I bet that's the first thing he would do. Probably to me.
I don't know, man. Like, if I knew I was like, hey, you're just going to be tortured, and I just started, like, if it's diarrhea, just like, I don't mind having diarrhea, like the sensation. So if it's just like coming, like, constipation would be worse.
I definitely think so. Like, if somebody were like to, seal it up somehow so nothing can come out, that'd be some massive torture.
Yeah.
I don't think Evil is quite that evil, at least not in this show anyway. Evil tortures the people that Kevin loves the most.
And his parents are freaking out. Yeah, it's so funny that they're like, oh no, and then everyone else gets harmed, and then they're like, oh hell yeah, like they don't care that the people he loves most is not them. They are excited because that means they don't get tortured.
That's right. What a horrible turn of events. But one of those people that Kevin loves most is his own sister Saffron. They've really created a bond here among themselves. So yeah, suddenly around this point, while they're getting tortured, we get the grand entrance from a rock and roll Supreme Being with his lightning and his ripping guitar solo, coming in about as corny as can be. No. Everybody's rolling their eyes at him.
No, this is cool. I liked him. If this man came in, I'd be like, all right, I need to figure out what he's about.
I would too. I mean, he kind of reminded me of like Andrew WK because, that's his thing. He wears all white on stage. Yeah, I mean, I would probably be impressed with his cool hair and stuff too, but they all know who this guy is, and they're rolling his eyes at how ridiculous he can make himself sometimes. Kevin is forced at this point to make a choice because we got the Supreme Being right there. He wants that map so he can reset history. We've got Evil right here. He wants the map so he can make history work, so he can make the world spikier and scarier. That's his whole point, is he just wants to make the world more evil, but he wants to keep the world. So that's an important point.
Yes, that's how he phrased it. He said, the Supreme Being will erase it. I'll keep it as is. Just make it more miserable.
Right. And spikier. They mentioned it's going to be spikier.
Oh, man, Sonic better watch out. He better keep those rings close to him.
That's right. Kevin works out a quick bargain real quick. Evil sends Kevin's parents home, so they're safe at home at this point. Yes, James.
Real quick, you want to know who will love this new world that Evil's going to bring about?
Who?
Tommy Pickles.
What?
Because his dog's name is Spike, so if there's more Spikes in the world.
Okay, right. I was like, Tommy Pickles would not be happy in this world, but yes, his dog Spike. So yeah, Kevin has to make his choice here. His parents aren't there. His parents are safe home. He just has to give this map to someone. Surprisingly, he chooses Evil, which in this case, I believe might be the right choice. But it is, kind of a shock. It's a nice turn of events here.
I was thinking he'd either give it to Evil or he chucks it behind him. It goes in the magma and it obliterates.
I was thinking that he was going to give it to Widget and say, Widget, you're the rightful owner of the map. You know, this is your map. That's what I actually thought was what I expected to happen. But, you know, like most people, I was not expecting Evil to get handed to it friendly as he did. So, yeah, at this point, Evil's got the map. He's on top of the world. They have a disco battle. And the bandits take this as a cue to take off in a flurry of fireworks. So it's like, you know, our finale has fireworks happening. It's very appropriate. Saffron's plan. We're back to Saffron's plan, James. This was her plan. She was saying before that they didn't want to disclose to anybody. They switched the lunchboxes. They switched the maps. So they thought. So they actually gave Evil some lunch. I think there was some lunch in that pail that he got. Mm-hmm. But then their yellow pail, just has a blank piece of paper in it as well, because they got swindled by those conspirators you were talking about.
Oh, wait, that's who does that?
Yes, because maybe you didn't notice. The very last scene of the show, Kevin opens up the yellow thing. Yeah. It's the white paper. Everybody starts screaming, oh no, oh no. Biddleg turns around, he bends over in like, you know, kind of like in like grief or something like that. At that exact moment, you can see clear as day, right above Biddleg's head, those 5 conspiracy time bandits. You can see each of them clear as day running across the mountaintop going to their future.
I'm glad you noticed that, because I just thought like, okay, well, we'll never know what's going to happen. And the fact that I brought that up of like, we never even at least it's sort of resolved of like, okay, yes. I can live with this now. We know what happens to the map and I can fill in my blanks. Like, who stole the map, whatever, like, oh, they stole the map and they're going to like make the world better. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but either way, I'm upset that this left on a cliffhanger, but yeah.
Well, this is why I wanted to wait till this point to talk about this, because, you know, we talked to Sarah Darkin, or at least I talked to Sarah Darkin, and she was featured in 2 of the episodes previously. So in this episode, she's also, you know, one of the co-stars. Her name's on the screen too, because she clearly is on the screen there. And I was hoping that she would join us for this episode to talk about this with us, because when I had my interview with her, of course, she mentioned how their Time Bandit group did have a name that they called themselves, but she wouldn't tell me what it was at the time. She said there were plans to add another group of Time Bandits to season 2, and that's what she was expecting to happen. So I believe this was taken from some of our Time Bandits here. This role in season 2 that could have happened. This is another reason that I'm really angling. I'd love to see it go to like a different network or animated or something, so we can see this next group of Time Bandits do their thing and what they do with it.
Now, if it's animated, who would you want to animate it? Maybe helming Kevin Smith style?
You know, I did like the Clerks animated style, but
yeah,
I'm really a big fan of watercolor animation. Like, for example, like Samurai Jack style, where they have like the watercolor in the background, and then they have, you know, the characters in the foreground, like standard animation, but the backgrounds were all like hand done watercolors. And I really like that look of Samurai Jack. So that's kind of what I would like to go for. I even like those kind of blocky looking characters, like from Total Drama Island, that style of animation. I like that too.
I like Adventure Time. That would be good.
Oh, heck yeah. Adventure Time, that style, that's a more of like a obscure style, because like, you know, they will have like funny shaped bodies and all that kind of stuff. But that would probably actually work. You could make Biddleg like this big, weird hulking giant and bigger than the rest of them. Widget's all skinny and tall. Yeah, I could see that happening. But yeah, that is what happened with the map there at the end. The conspirator bandits is what I call them. They took that map. Somehow they wormed their way into the Fortress of Darkness and helped facilitate that third switch we never saw. I even went so far as to watch the episode a couple more times and like look in the background into the blackness and like see if maybe I see like a hand or something. But no, it's the only scene we get here is at the very end. And you're right. It's easy to overlook. My first watch, I did overlook it. Yeah. And my second watch is when I caught it. And when I caught it, I was like, how did I miss that? Because when you're looking for it, I mean, rewind it for yourself. That last scene, like Biddleg bends over. And that's the exact moment that they all run across. They scamper, actually. They're scampering across the screen.
We got to get out of here.
Exactly.
Well, I hope this gets picked up somewhere else, but chances are it might not.
Yeah, that's a good chance of that. That's correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got this season to watch anytime we want. I really did enjoy watching it. No lie there. I'm glad that we picked this show because some of the shows that I picked to do our coverage of, for example, 1899 and even this Time Bandits, I kind of picked blindly because both shows were brand new. I didn't know how they were going to turn out. Wheel of Time is a little different in that respect. But, you know, I could have picked shows like I asked you if you wanted to do the show Kaleidoscope with me. We did not do that, which was a good call because that was another show that was a one season, never got redone, wasn't even well reviewed. So I'm glad we didn't go into that one. But yeah, from here, for you and myself, I think what's coming up next for us is Time Squad. Is that correct, James?
I think so.
Yeah, that's kind of our plan, guys, is Lindsey and myself, of course, are probably going to be doing, the name of the show escapes me, 100 Years of Solitude. More than likely, Lindsey and myself will be doing that, an upcoming Sweet Shot of Time. But if not that, then we'll be doing time-related movies like we always do. But when me and James get together, our plan is to watch episodes of Time Squad. And I'll link those ahead of time so y'all can check them out too. But what my plan with that is, it's a show very similar to Time Bandits where they go in time and it's comedic and it's for kids, you know, for older kids, of course. So it's not going to be a lot of in-depth stuff to talk about the episode itself. But what I plan to do is go into whatever time frame that they're going to time travel to and make that be the focus of our episode. And we'll do some extra research about whatever period of time they go to.
And we'll goof on it.
Of course. We got to goof on it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if we're not goofy, I don't know what we are. Serious? That's no fun.
But speaking about serious, we seriously got to get going.
Okay. All right. I'm down with that. Listeners, you hear that? It's time to stop the episode, but not yet. How about some plugs first? James, you got any plugs for us that might be in the show notes?
Hey guys, head over to patreon.com/MLM pod, where for $5 a month, you get exclusive content every single Friday. What month is this coming out?
December, late December.
Hey guys, we celebrated the 50th episode of This Existed over on the Patreon. That's 50 movie/TV shows that Lil Corey and I have discussed. Nice. We are not capping out. We're celebrating by discussing the ABC Family Christmas movie Snow Globe, which Lil Corey loves. So that's how we're celebrating 50.
Nice. Okay. What kind of plugs do I have? Check out my music at Introvoid, please. Still releasing some things. My most recent thing is we did a more in-depth, what do you say? We did a remastering. That's what you call it. We remastered and remixed our single, Tell Me About Paradise. So we learned some tricks from an engineer of ours. We got some much better vocals happening. It sounds a lot better. So check out our new version of Tell Me About Paradise. And Sweet Child of Time as usual. James, we're going to get out of here. And before we do, I want you and the listeners to always make sure you're always finding lots of water and shade and shoes. Okay, James?
I found all of them. They've been behind me this whole time.
They've been in my heart this whole time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.